This is Lisa Tucker, host of The Book Cover, which showcases local literary personalities. So listen to The Book Cover on the Borderline. And remember, don't judge a book by its cover. Hi, you're listening to The Book Cover on the Borderline. I'm Lisa Tucker, and today I have another repeat offender. I've got
Guilty.
Yes, you are. Graham Elder, author of the COVID series, or Covid Odyssey, and you've just released your fourth book in the series.
I did, yeah. It actually was released last year, sometime around April.
Oh, is that? I thought it was later for some reason.
No,
okay.
it was last April, and just getting around to getting on the show to talk a little bit about it, about the series itself, and a few other things going on from the world of writing.
Yeah, and I want to hear all of it. And so for people that don't know, writing is actually your side gig.
Yeah.
You have a day job, a very important day job. So just tell us.
Yeah, I'm an orthopedic surgeon at Sueria Hospital. In fact, I was operating all day today. And here we are changing the brain around completely to get out of that
crazy?
science mind
right,
to the creative mind.
Right, left.
Yeah, we're using both parts of the brain today.
I love it. So you'll definitely not get Alzheimer's today.
I'm going to try not to.
Please don't. And so the fourth book in the series is called End in Sight.
Right.
And just recap a little bit. So
the series itself? Yeah.
Yeah, just
So this is actually, it's a tough summary, but the idea is the protagonist, Mark Spencer, around the time of March 2020, when COVID came around, I wrote the novella that described his adventures in getting from Sault Ste. Marie to Florida to save his wife with an experimental drug surrounding the whole COVID pandemic. And the concept was to bring up the educational aspects of the pandemic, which were very misleading at the time for all the information coming out, and maybe setting some things straight, and add a little bit of adventure to it to make it interesting to read. Relatively short novella. And then it came back, I guess it was at the end of the year, with Second Wave, which was, again, paralleling the developments of the pandemic at that time. And then the third book was Variant Reset, which was the following year. Again, all following different adventures of this protagonist, Mark Spencer.
So the second one, Mark goes to Europe, correct?
Mark goes to England.
Yeah.
And so the third one is more international, going to South America, through the U.S. again. And this brings us to the fourth book. So the fourth book, from a timeline relative to the pandemic, ends September of 22. Does that make sense now? Let me think about this. Yes, 22, because it came out in April of 23. So that was kind of the pandemic up until that point. That's what was going on. So at that point, I would say that's when things were starting to get more relaxed. All the the travel limitations were finishing up.
Yeah.
We were going into a different setting of the effects of COVID on our work environment, on our living, on our lifestyles. And so this fourth book was a bit different. The other one followed a very specific sort of scenario, if you will, of this journey of the hero adventure thing. The fourth one is more of a side story. I was wanting to write something that was more local, and so this one takes place in Sault Ste. Marie, Wawa, and Lake Superior Park. And so, again, sort of respecting what was going on with COVID at that time, so leading up to September of 2022. And so, we were still wearing masks to some extent. Hospitals were back to normal function, but dealing with different problems, like because everybody was getting sick, because everything was getting relaxed. We were all getting COVID here and there, and patients were getting COVID. So it was a very different sort of time than 1 or 2 years prior to that. And so this one is kind of a murder mystery. It's about I don't want to give too much away. You know what I'll do? I'll read the back part of it just a little bit, because it was a struggle to write something about it that didn't give too much away. So the idea is that while hiking the deep woods of Lake Superior Park in northern Ontario, an innocent man is shot and killed. Somehow straddling the world of the living and the dead, he realizes he has until sunset to make peace with the loss of his loved ones and make sense of all the reasons behind his death. So there's a reluctant killer, a small-town deputy chief on the hunt for a murderer, a wife who would do anything to protect her husband, a niece on the verge of a monumental scientific discovery related to the COVID pandemic, and a physician on a mercy mission, which is the protagonist, Mark Spencer. So 5 individuals whose paths cross over the course of a single day, changing their lives forever, follow Dr. Mark Spencer on a magical journey between worlds as he unravels the mystery and discovers something that could change the course of the pandemic. So that's the easiest way to sort of explain what the book is about without giving everything away.
Yeah, see, and that's a good teaser because now I definitely want to read it. Because I think I've read up to 3,
right,
and this is the one I'm missing.
Yeah,
so I haven't read this one yet.
Yeah, and so it was a fun write because I got a chance to visit all the places I was writing about, and I do a lot of solo hiking, and the idea for the story essentially came about. I don't know if you know the Toab Trail. It's part of the Lake Superior Park. It's it's off Freighter Road. Anyway, I was walking along this trail and I had this, bizarre, morbid thought, like, what if I got shot right now and died?
Oh, Jesus.
kind of things.
I don't want to hike with you.
Yeah, kind of things you think about when you're hiking alone. You look around, the scene is just set up so perfect. What would happen? What would be some reasons behind why that would happen? And anyway, from there I developed the story for this one, and then sort of incorporated the whole COVID timeline to it. And it was a fun thing to write about, and it's
Wow.
I think it's a pretty good read. So.
Yeah, I definitely want to read it. Yeah. And it's funny. So I've read the 1, 2, and 3 before this one. And in reading your COVID, the Mark Spencer's COVID experience, and I watch and I read a lot of apocalyptic. It read like we were having a worldwide apocalypse. And I had to keep on reminding myself, wait a minute, I lived through this.
Yes.
Right? And so it's such an exciting, the book is really exciting because if you like the sort of apocalyptic, something's happened to the world and now it's not the same. Yes. And basically, all these movies and books that we read and watch about apocalyptic stuff.
Right.
You've written about, and it still seems apocalyptic, but we lived through it.
Yeah, it's the real deal.
Fiction. Yeah, it's a real deal. So Mark Spencer, you and Mark Spencer have a lot. You have a lot of I guess, parallels.
Yeah, a lot of people actually, when they read these books, they're thinking of me. People who know me. But I'm not an emerge physician, which he is, which is a bit different, but slight difference.
Slight difference, but
I try to keep enough things different that anyway. Yeah.
Well, he's a doctor.
Yeah,
you're a doctor. He kayaks.
Yeah, he does the outdoor activities that I do. Yeah,
kayak, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now his wife is a doctor.
So in the book, his wife is a pharmacist.
Sorry, pharmacist. Is your wife a pharmacist?
Not a pharmacist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have to keep some things, got to separate reality from fiction a little bit.
Right.
You got to write what you know, but you have to keep some borders in place.
Yeah, exactly, because you don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to have to change names to protect the innocent.
It's exactly, and it's enough when people or even patients come to me and say, in that third book when you were doing that thing, I'm like, look, that wasn't me. That was my
when you were
that was my character.
When you're
I didn't do that.
The world
That's
from
right.
disaster.
Yeah, no, that wasn't me. I wish.
Now, have you? I know a lot of series that have the same main characters. People develop fan pages. Has a fan page been developed for Mark Spencer
yet? Oh, I don't know. I didn't develop it. If there was
no,
one out there.
It's usually a fan. It's usually a fan that does it.
I don't. So good. Anybody out there, please develop a fan page. That's a cool idea.
Okay. Well, maybe I've got a lot of time on my hands, so maybe I'll do a fan page.
I'll hire you as whatever you call it, marketing.
Yeah, you don't even have to hire me.
No, you're just gonna go for it.
I'll do it for free. And also So I think since the last time I talked to you, you've done audiobooks now. Right.
So I record. Yeah, that's right. I didn't have that done last time. So with Greg Norrie at the studio at the Loft, we recorded the first book in audiobook format. That was fun. That was very different because he's used to dealing with rock and roll or singers, and he kind of treated me like a singer in the sense that so I was in a little sound recording booth that's designed for more audiobook type stuff, and he was in the studio behind his big board, and I would read something, he'd say nope, got to do that again, nope, with more feeling, no, now you got to slow it down, speed it up. So he was it took 4 hours to record probably 90 minutes of material.
He was hard on you. He wanted you to be perfect.
I was good with that. It was fun.
Yeah.
But by the end of 4 hours, I'd had enough of the book. I got to tell you, I was reading it over and over again. And then there was the editing process afterwards, which when you record that much material, obviously you're getting 3, 4, 5 takes or more on something. You have to take the best take and put it all together.
Sure.
Anyway, the final product was really, really good. He did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
And so that's available, I think, on Amazon. And Listener U, actually, I don't know if you know
Listener
U. It's an audiobook publishing company that's in town, and they looked after putting it up on Amazon and on their own website. I think the idea with their website is that you pay a yearly fee, and then you have access to this amount of audiobooks, and there's some educational aspect of it, so there's a tax write-off.
Audible. It's kind of like Audible?
It is, but there's a tax write-off thing associated with it because there's an educational part to it. So there's like courses that you can take through it in addition to fun audiobooks, if you will. So that was a great experience. We're talking about doing the second book probably soon, like March or April or something like that, recording it. It's a bit of a longer book, so it's challenging because if you do it in several takes, your voice has to be the same,
consistent.
Right? You know, if you've ever listened to a lot of audio books or audibles, you can tell sometimes when there's a switch in there's been a break of some sort, and you forget it immediately as the story takes over. But anyway, so that's something we have to play with in terms of the timing and things like that.
So how did you prepare for that? Did you listen to a lot? Like, are you an audiobook
listener?
listener?
I do. I listen to quite a few.
Did you do any voice coaching or?
No voice coaching. It was, but it's a great. Your point is well taken in that when you have dialogue, it's always a question of, do you change your voice for the dialogue? And I think the only thing I did with this is when there was female dialogue, I raised it just a little bit, just enough so that it differentiated from either the narrator or other dialogue. Yeah. But it's as an amateur, it's very difficult to maintain different voices. You really need to be a voice actress, to do that kind of thing. And that's, if you've ever listened to Game of Thrones, for example, that one, the guy does 50 different voices, and somehow every voice is always
and you can
perfect.
Without them saying so-and-so said this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a recognizable voice. So very challenging, and it's interesting because some people don't like that style of audiobook, the multiple voices, because some of the voices might irritate you, for example, and other people and some people would prefer just a narration with maybe some subtle changes for the dialogue. Because I've talked to a lot of people about it, wondering that myself, how I should approach this. And in the end, it's the easiest thing for you to just speak in your own voice.
Yeah, and you know what? You'll approach 5 different people, and they'll probably like 5 different things.
For sure.
In working at the library, we used to get audiobooks for seniors who couldn't read or, and had some hearing problems. So you'd get the ones that say, I need it to be narrated by a man because that's how that's the level I hear best at, or I need it to be by a woman because that is easier for me to listen to, or so you'll get so just do it whatever you feel comfortable. Natural. Yeah.
I was Ann Patchett. She was at a reading down in Petoskey, and I went down there and I met her and we chatted a little bit. Her husband's actually an internist, so we had some commonalities. But it's Meryl Streep who's reading her recent book, and when you listen to an actress of that caliber, it's kind of mind-blowing. You feel like it.
She can't really do any wrong, really.
No, and then I think Tom Hanks read one of her other books. So when the voices are so recognizable, they can do anything, and it sounds fantastic. So
yeah, I
not
agree.
quite at that level, though.
I agree. Well, I mean, I'm always available. So if you ever need a female voice, I'll put in my God.
Well, maybe one day we'll see.
Right? And you brought along one of you. Now, is this the first book?
Yeah, this is the first book that was translated into Arabic, and I just brought it along to show you how unusual it is to read from right to left, how hard it is to get your mind around it, and just how interesting it is in general just to see it. But that's the first. I can't remember if we talked about this last time, but there was an Egyptian professor. Did we talk about this? Right, who somehow picked up on the book.
He was doing it in a class.
He was doing his PhD. He did a critical analysis of the paper as part of his PhD requirements, and then from there went on to translate the book. And this was all before he even contacted me. And then once he translated the book, I kind of took over from there because he didn't really know how to get it into a print format, which is, it's challenging. It's
It is,
challenging
if
with
you
a
don't
regular English book to do it with an Arabic book when you don't speak Arabic. Very challenging.
Yeah, no kidding.
So with these books, what I've done is I've donated some of them along with the original to the Innovation Center here in town as part of the welcoming package for Arabic-speaking people. So there's about 150 immigrants, or if you will, who moved to the Sioux. And apparently one of the best ways to learn a new language is to have a book, especially if it's entertaining, in both languages.
Yes.
And one of the two translators on this book lives in Arizona, and this is one of her things where she has a lot of books that are translated, and she's either teaching Arabic or teaching English from people who've immigrated there, and this is what she suggested as a really cool way to do it. So so that's a little project that's kind of in the sideline, which is kind of fun.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. And so are there any other languages that your books have been
Just
translated?
the two at the moment.
Just Arabic and English.
I know, right?
You skipped right over
Spanish, French
and Indigenous, and you went
the
straight to Arabic.
Totally accidental, so I'll take it.
That's awesome.
So that was a fun little
I guess so.
project that's
And what a
ongoing.
great thing for visitors, people that are coming into our city
Right.
that maybe aren't great at English,
Right.
and just knowing a little bit. And there's lots of our culture in this
Yeah,
book.
exactly.
In these books.
I think it's a good thing to learn about your local, where you've just moved to, which is kind of fun.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's
I
cool.
love that.
If this one was translated, it would be good too, because it's even more local than
Yes.
like the End in Sight. If it's even more local than
Well,
this
call
one,
your
but-
buddy in Egypt
Yeah, I know.
on a Sunday during not peak hours.
yeah, yes, that's right.
Now, are you still a part of the Two Docs writing?
Yeah, exactly. So we've gotten into a number of contests, and this also happened since I last spoke to you. This was a cool contest. This was based out of Denver, Colorado. It's a publishing company called Owl Canyon Press, and they had this contest that started last July. And so here's how it works. And this is what's cool about it. They give you it was a team-based contest, and they give you the first paragraph of a fictional story, and then they give you two diametrically opposing final paragraphs, a 50th paragraph, and you have to write 49 paragraphs in between to connect the dots. And you have to connect the dots in the sense that both stories make sense. So in this case, just to give you an example, at the end of the story, there's a car that explodes, and there's a car that the two protagonists get into and drive off. And so you have to make the story make sense to do that. Anyway, so we did well. We were finalists in this story, and so it was published in this book called Nobody Left to Blame. So we're the last story in it, because the story is called When You Wish Upon a Cloud. So
It's a collection of short stories?
Collection of short stories. So these are all, I think this one's about 12,000 words, and they all varied sort of in length of that. So we actually went to Denver to pick up our books, to make a little trip about it. We did that in January. This is my colleague, Laura Cody. She's a forensic psychiatrist in New York. And we took our spouses. We made a little trip with it, met a bunch of writers, the publishing company, and just a fun little sidebar to do.
Fun, yeah.
And so there's a shockingly large number of contests out there of every sort that I'm just finding out about. And my partner Laura, she's really into contests right now. She's doing a lot of so there's all these different nano things, or 250 word things, 500 word things, 1,000, 2,000 words. Mm-hmm. And so so we're doing a little bit of that right now on the side, just for fun.
That's cool. A friend of mine who is from Sault Ste. Marie, and she's out in Vancouver. She swears by contests too. So she wrote a children's book and put it into the Kids Press Canscape.
Okay.
And she wasn't the winner, but she was the runner-up, and they published her book.
Excellent.
And actually, her children's book ended up being available as one of the books in a Happy Meal.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it was called Wade's Wiggly Antlers.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
and
cool.
it talked about how Wade. Anyway,
Yeah.
contest. If people want to don't know what to do,
Right.
look at there's different genres.
Oh my, there's everyone.
Tons.
Yeah. There's and once you even look it up once on Instagram or Facebook, then you get bombarded with.
Of course.
And they're all very
algorithms.
they're all very similar. They're $3,000 for first place if you. So there's money to be made if you want to push hard.
Yeah.
And they have there's a lot of competition, and some of like thousands and thousands of stories that are submitted. There's one called the Scottish Art Trust that I just submitted a 2,000 word story to. And so I won't hear for that. Usually it's months, right? Because I have to read all these stories. But it's just a fun thing to do on the side to keep sharp, especially when you're involved in a lot of editing. Because once you've finished writing the book or whatever it is, or books that you're working on, then it's all about editing. And so you start to lose a little bit that creative spark in terms of coming up with new ideas. So the short story thing we found is a nice little divergent.
To clean the palette.
Clean the palette so you can stay focused and keep doing the editing, which is such a big part of the whole process.
Yeah.
If you could get rid of the editing, it would be great. Just the first draft,
right? Like, if
but it would suck because every time you go back and read the first draft, they're all terrible. But yeah,
I understand. Now you mentioned Scotland. Now so your fourth book is part because you went to Scotland,
right? We were in Scotland. I think last time we talked, we had a medical school reunion there. And,
but
there was a castle there, which is sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, but do you use your visit to Scotland? Did that get into the book?
Scotland? Oh no, I've got another book on the go with that.
Okay.
It's a bit of a different genre, more of a. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. You never know how good you are at writing a certain genre until you try. Romantic comedy, is that my thing? Maybe not.
Yeah, it's not my thing.
Yeah, what I mean. But you won't know when you try it out. And,
right.
And it's just the fun thing about writing is you can just pick and choose things, try them out, and if it doesn't work, you just put it in the drawer. Yeah. And that's the end of that.
Well, and that's the thing with writing. You are the god.
Yeah.
Of the world, of the people, and it's very empowering,
right,
when you really sit down and think about it.
Absolutely.
But you were so I remember we talked about this a little bit last time. But when the Queen passed,
yes, that's right.
You were in Scotland.
We were on a
and she passed
bus.
to Scotland. Yeah.
We were they announced it just as we were passing by Balmoral Castle.
Yes.
And everybody, my wife she was asleep, and everybody started buzzing in the bus, and I was wondering what was going on, and then I finally heard, and we were right there.
That's pretty.
It really shut down the towns though. There was no fun to be had.
Oh, because everybody was in mourning.
No music, it was and that was for almost a week at least.
Oh wow, they were real serious.
They were very serious about their queen. Rightly so.
Yeah,
She's been doing it for a while.
Yeah, and that was her like adopted home.
Yeah, exactly.
What's next? What's coming up?
So it's funny you're talking about being the god of your world.
So, are you doing something?
Well, we've been working on this thing called the Epsilon Project. This is my writing partner and I. This was our first project together that started probably in 2016. We started developing this thing, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. So it was going to be a trilogy, and we'd written literally thousands of pages and edited, and we've never quite figured out what to do with it because it was the appetite for trilogies by publishers is limited, because if the first book doesn't do well, then you're stuck with these other two books, and it becomes very complicated. So it's very difficult. You would think not, given the number of like Sarah J. Maas and all that kind of stuff that's just so huge right now. But they're very reluctant to take on new writers in that regard. So we've kind of had this thing for a while, and we weren't quite sure what to do with it. And so I have an orthopedic surgeon colleague in Delaware who had written this historical fiction book, and he put it out on Wattpad, which I'm not sure if you're familiar about Wattpad. No. So Wattpad is a free online, program that people download their stories onto for free. So it's huge among YA and younger readers because it's not Substack. It's its own thing. Like that? I guess I don't quite understand Substack. I know some people use it for their almost like a website. Is that correct, or is it?
As best I can see, it is like a blog. Like it could be a blog.
Like a blog,
you can write on it. You can do whatever you want.
Right. No, this is there's 93 million readers on this site who access. I forget how many, like 6,000 stories or something. I can't remember how many they are, but
yeah.
And so what you can do is you can post a chapter per week. So that's what this colleague of mine did. Over the course of 20 odd weeks, he released one chapter per week, and then you build readership. And so I think by the end he said he had a couple thousand readers, which was decent for historical fiction on that kind of site, which is largely dystopian style romantic comedy. That seems to be what does well on it. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at releasing our massive tome of post-apocalyptic. The whole concept was a solar flare erupts, the grid's down, and there's a psychological illness that turns people into kamikaze type.
Like COVID did.
A little bit like that, yeah. And so I think that's what we're going to do with it. We're going to try releasing a chapter per week, and it'll go on forever. But the concept is, I guess, the longer you're on there, the more your chance of building a readership.
Oh, sure.
And Wattpad has their own publishing division now because they've become so huge. And so if your books do well on this site, then they may publish your book for you. So you can pull it down anytime you want. You can bring it right through to the end, and once you're at the end, you can take it down and then self-publish it if you want. I think it would be difficult to get traditional publishing at that point. Although the other thing we're realizing is that there's a lot of medium-level publishers. Like there's the big five, which everybody targets. But there's another ER doc that we've been chatting with, who how shall I say it? He submitted his book. He got an agent, submitted his book to this medium-sized publisher, and has done very well with that. And this is the kind of thing where you're putting some money into the project.
There's some risk now.
There's a little bit of risk, but he's done exceptionally well. I think he's got like 6,000 reviews for the book on Amazon in a fairly short period of time. And he's writing ER doc sort of fiction. So these medium style publishing companies are something new that we're kind of looking at, as well as an interesting place to consider putting your book if you wanted to.
Right.
And that's they'll take care of more of the marketing stuff if you're not into that kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's called Wattpad.
So Wattpad is like WATTPAD.
Oh, Watt.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, that's the online one.
Okay.
Yeah. That's just an online thing,
Yeah.
and they have their own online publishing company as well. Like I said, I'm still sort of researching it to get a sense of it, but it is a bit of a jackpot if you can get a readership going. And the concept is that you would use social media to advertise your postings of your chapters.
Sure.
Which might get a little tedious if you get into like the 70th chapter, and hey, my 70th chapter just came out today.
Right. I know you haven't read the first 69.
Yeah, exactly. But so that's something new. That's something new and different, and I don't know. We'll see how it works out. But so we're kind of trying to bring that, because we wrote it. We had 2 volumes of the trilogy completely written, edited, and ready. But even that was maybe 3 years ago. So now as we go back and our writing skills evolve, you see where you want to change things, and so there's that part of it too. So we're just kind of revising it right now, and then probably in the new year. So it's based on a solar flare, and I don't know if you know about solar max, but every 11 years there's this massive solar eruptions when you start to see all the aurora borealis, northern lights, and the coronal mass ejections, all these kind of things. Anyway, so we're trying to time this book to be released at that time, which is next year, 2025.
Very cool.
So a little Mother Nature advertising for us.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, and if you're interested in reading a book about what's going to be happening next week,
and hopefully it won't. But
right? We don't want any
more grid failures.
We've had it. We've had it with the apocalypse. So now, all the places this can, any of your books. So let's start with the COVID Odyssey.
Yes.
Where can we get these?
So they're literally everywhere in town now. Actually, they're even at the Pharmasave at Churchill Plaza. That's a new thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But the library has all 4 books. Coles, Marnie Stone has them at the Artesian.
Artesian, yeah.
And then... I think that's it.
Like Coles, are they print copy in
the
printing,
Coles?
Yeah,
Coles.
And,
you can
then
get
on
them
Amazon.
Coles. Amazon, of course, and all draft to digital. They're actually even in the bookstore McLean's and Eakins in Petoskey.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was kind of fun for me.
That's
to
very
do that.
cool.
Yeah, they have a local author kind of section there, which is kind of neat. So
that's cool. I actually went into Coles. Is it still called Coles, or is it Indigo now?
It's Coles is a sub-branch of Indigo.
Yeah, okay, in the Station Mall.
Right.
I went in there, I think it was last year, and I went to see your book. Like, I always go to see the people that I know that are in the book. So I had your books there, and one of the girls came up, who worked there, and she said, "Can I help you?" I said, "No, I'm just looking around to see, blah, 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 who I know." And I'm like, "See this person here? This person lives in the city."
Nice.
I was such a nerd.
Yeah. Well done. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I nerded right out. But
awesome.
it's all, she didn't even know.
No,
No, see, I should work at Coles.
Yeah.
I should be Coles greeter.
I've asked them about that, and they have very strict policies regarding even advertising local authors, because to me it would make sense in your town to at least
put a table out
or something, or
hey,
some sort of
local
indication.
Authors? Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess they have, because they're part of the big chain, they have to respect the rules that go along with that. So,
what I try to do, and this is an idea for anybody listening, is I go, before 2020, I went on vacation every year, somewhere hot, somewhere beachy where I can read. And I would always bring local books and leave them there.
Nice.
Because all these places, all these resorts, either in their little coffee nook or somewhere, they have like a borrowing library.
Right.
And so if you're done your book, you can put it there and look for something else, because nobody wants to bring that many books.
Right.
So I would always bring local books.
Nice.
So I'm going on another trip, finally, the first one in 4 years. So I'm going to have to, maybe I'll bring the whole series.
Oof, the whole series.
And read, well.
It's a lot of books.
It is, but I'm going, like, it's a destination wedding, and I'm going by myself.
Oh.
Like, my family's not coming.
Oh, boy.
So I'll have a lot of time on my hands. I'll be, I don't know what to do with myself, not being a mom or a wife. So what do I do?
You'll find something to keep you
I'm
busy.
sure, the free drinks and all that.
I did leave the books at the castle in Scotland, so there's that part.
See?
same concept.
That's cool. Yeah. I love that.
It's a good idea. It's
I
good
love
to
that.
get the books out there. Yeah, and that's what it's all about, trying to get exposure, trying to
Absolutely.
how you do that. I mean, the whole social media scene is so difficult as you get older and saturated and all those things, right?
Yeah.
Like the Instagram, Facebook. Those are the only ones that I kind of work with, but I know there's so much else out there that could be doing. Actually, for the first time, I used 2 influencers. Are you familiar with this? I meant just 2 specific influencers.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, so these are book review people who post things on their websites and their, I guess, Instagram sites and Facebook sites and things like that. So that's something new, sort of exploring for a bit of an old fart writer like me to figure out how these things work, because it's hard to get traction, to get the books out there.
Yeah,
get
and
them
everybody
known.
you sell to or give books away or whatever, put a little note in there that says please review on Amazon, because those are huge.
That's the big thing right now. Get the Amazon ratings. A lot of my patients pick up the books because I guess they like to read about it. So that's one of my things. If you like it, put a review on Amazon. Yeah.
And actually, that should be part of your post-op package, because they've had surgery.
That's right. They have time to kill, right?
They have time to
better.
kill. See, I'm going to put together a post-op package. It's going to involve some narcotics and your books.
Yes, perfect. And
I
if
love
the narcotics don't put them to sleep, maybe the books will. That's okay. They'll still sit in their subconscious. And,
I didn't want to say that, but no, these are definitely not put to sleep.
They'll perk them up.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the third time. And I know there's going to be a fourth.
Actually, there is a 5th book in the works on this one, probably the last one. The concept being is that we're finally back to some kind of normal. I think it's going to be called COVID Odyssey Legacies, the title I'd been working with. So that one will come out probably next year. I got to push myself to get that done.
Well, I mean, you've got other stuff.
There's a few other things to do. You're right, but still, it's fun. It's fun to finish something. Yeah, I'm a completionist. I want to get the whole thing.
I see, and I feel like what have I been doing with my time? When I see all the things you do, what the hell do I do with my time? I can't even clean a closet, for God's sakes. Anyway, Graham Elder, thank you so much for being on the show for the 3rd time.
Thank you for having
we'll
me.
get you back on next year for the 5th and final chapter of the COVID Odyssey. Pick up Graham's books wherever you can buy books, and they are available at the Sault Ste. Marie Public Library as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. This is Lisa Tucker. You've been listening to The Book Cover on the Borderline, and remember, don't judge a book by its cover.
Hey, this is Dr. Graham Elder. Follow Dr. Mark Spencer in his 4th book, End in Sight, available wherever books are sold. And check out my podcast with Lisa Tucker on The Book Cover right here on The Borderline.